Hello guys and welcome back to Planet 40k. We've got a Tyranids video for you today, another rate it or hate it. We're just getting a few of these in just to kind of get the Tyranids videos into the channel. We're going to be doing another rate it or hate it, and we're going to be looking at the Tyrannofex, one of the more heavier hitters or heavier shooters from the Tyranids Codex. So guys, if you've yet to subscribe and you've jumped over from the Tyranids channel or on Facebook I suppose, make sure you are subscribed down below. We're going to be putting out more Tyranid content here on this channel. Right, let's get into it, the datasheet. So the Tyranids Tyrannofex on another large base like the X-Crim which we did in the previous video, 120mm by 32mm base. It's like oval kind of shaped base, pretty big, and it's a monster. That's what we really need to know in terms of keywords. Movement wise, 9 inches, very nice, very fast. Toughness 12, also very tough. 2+ armor, no invulnerable save, 16 wounds. Leadership 8+, and objective control is 5. So yeah, pretty decent stats, very tanky. I like the wound 16 with a 2+ armor save on top of that, and toughness 12 is very good, very good. Now we've got weapon options here. We have got 3 weapons that will also go with your Stinger Salvos. Let's get the Stinger Salvos out of the way because they're easy to forget, and knowing me, I'll probably forget them. 24-inch range, 8 shots, or 8 attacks, hitting on 3s, strength 5, no AP, 1 damage. So a nice light anti-infantry weapon, especially if you're getting tagged in engagement range. You want something more to get rid of those little, I was going to say little bugs, but this is a Tyranids video. So if it's Orc Boys, maybe it won't really be Guardians, they're not really going to tag you. Other little things that are trying to tag you to prevent you from doing certain things, movement and things like that. Stinger Salvos will assist in getting rid of those models. Now the 3 options, you've got either the Acid Spray, the Flesh Borer Hive, or the Rupture Cannon. We're going to go through all 3 of those to give you my opinions on them, and let's discuss them. So the first one is the Acid Spray, which is a torrent, only 18-inch range, so you probably will need to make the most of your movement, which is 9 inches, which is good still. So when you move 9, you've got 18-inch range, that's a total of what, 27 inches as a threat range from shooting. Not too bad really, not too bad really. Attacks is D6 plus 6. So what's that? I always get these averages wrong. Is it 9? It's an average of 9 or 10 attacks, because D6 could be a 3 or a 4. 9, 10. Yeah, I have got that right this time. Obviously, there's no bliss skill because you automatically hit with torrent weapons, which is why this is nice. It's a nice weapon. That will also include Overwatch as well, don't forget. Strength 6, minus 2 AP, 2 damage. Now Strength 6 is in a nice place because not only do you wound the standard toughness 4, toughness 5 models on 3s, but anything that is toughness 3, you wound on 2s. So it kind of works all round really, apart from that, unless you go like toughness 7 and onwards, then it's not as good obviously. Minus 2 AP is all you really need for anti-infantry. So if you're going up against Marines for example, that puts them on a 5+ armor. If you're going up against anything that's got a 5+ armor, like a Guardian, of course it just removes their armor save. The damage is 2. You could argue that you're paying premium because against Gaunts and Guardians and things like that, you don't need 2 damage. But it's just an added bonus. If you're going up against, again, a Space Marine, it will remove the model because they're 2 wounded models. So definitely a nice weapon, and as I said, it works in Overwatch as well. That's the first one. The second one, the Flesh Borer Hive. It's got a lot of keywords here. It's heavy, so if you stay still, you get to have a +1 to your hit roll. Sustain hits 1, which is any critical hit rolls, will give you an additional hit on top. So if you get 1/6, that'd be like 2 shots. And then you've got Twin Linked, which means you're going to be re-rolling all of your wound rolls. Now it's 24-inch range, but you want to make use of that heavy, so you don't really want to be moving. You want to get that +1 to the hit roll. It makes a lot of difference with the amount of shots this thing has, which is actually 20. You get 20 shots with it. You definitely want to be using the heavy keyword here. Hitting on 3s, 2s if you're heavy. Strength 5, no AP, 1 damage. So it pretty much matches your Stinger Salvos. It's just like having 20 more shots with it, except these ones are sustain hits 1 and you're re-rolling all the wound rolls with Twin Linked. On paper, it looks like a great weapon, but realistically, I don't think many people select it. When you actually break down the damage, I've not got the maths to hand, but I've done it in the past. The maths figures don't really do well. It looks like it should. When you got 20 shots and you're hitting on 2s and sustain hits 1, it should do well. But the AP and damage really is lacking. And unless you're going up against a horde, which there's not many Horde armies, and then those armies don't necessarily play Horde. Like Tyranids, we don't play Horde all the time, right? It all depends on what you come up against, and a lot of the time it's against the elite infantry or even the standard infantry where you need a bit of AP, and some of the times you need some damage as well. So not for me, that one, but it is an option if you prefer it. The third option, some people do like this one, the Rupture Cannon. It's got heavy again, so stay still, hitting on 2s, 48-inch range. So this time you don't need to move for it to be firing, because you've got the range, although you will need to make sure you've got those firing lanes, because you don't want to be moving to look for one. Only 2 shots, bit of a problem, 2 shots only, a little bit hit and miss. You want to be hitting on 2s, but if you're not, you're hitting on 3s if you've moved. Strength is 18, I believe that's the best in the codex. Strength 18, minus 4 AP and 2d6 as the damage. So if you get the shots off and they hit, they will likely wound, because you likely wounded on 2s, maybe 3s against the tougher stuff. Minus 4, so if they've not got an invulnerable save, they very likely don't have a save. Unless they started on a 2+, that will put them to a 6+. Most things, I have been caught out in the past with this one, but most things that have a 2+ armor save will have an in-1 save. Not everything. The Necron's Monolith, I think, is the one that I got caught out on. In fact, the Tyrannofex right here, it's literally staring at me. 2+ armor save, no in-1. So there you go, there's an example right there. Nearly caught out again. 2d6. What's that? An average of 7 damage for one of these to go through. So if you get both to go through, that's an average of 14 damage. So there's a lot of damage potential. The strength is great against virtually everything. I don't think there's much. I mean, going back again to Necron's Monolith, that's a toughness 13 model. So even that, you're wounded on 3s. It's good if you can get the hits to hit, and if you can get the wounds to wound, pretty much. Other than that, yeah. If you're going up against invulnerable save armies, I wouldn't bother. If they've got like a 4+ invulnerable save, it's a 50-50. Even a 5+ invulnerable save makes it difficult. Then Feel No Pains. Feel No Pains aren't as bad because you're going on every single damage point. And if you roll high on the damage, they've got to do it on every single one of them. So, swings and roundabouts with the Rupture Cannon. I personally like the Acid Spray. I'll talk about that a little bit more in the outro section, but I think the Acid Spray is the one for me. Although the argument there is, do we need more anti-infantry and for 190 points, which is something I didn't mention when we were talking about the data card. 190 point model, which has actually gone down recently. It used to be 245, it's now 190. So there, a little bit of a bonus. So yeah, that's the weapon options to go alongside your Stinger Salvo. We've got the melee option as well, or the melee weapon, the powerful limbs. 4 attacks that hit on 3s. They are strength 8, no AP and 2 damage. Very similar to the Exocrine. You don't really want to fight with it. It's not that great in combat. The strength 8 looks nice. It might kill a model every now and then, don't get me wrong, but don't rely on it. Ability wise, you've got the Deadly D6 or Deadly Demise D6, so quite a large explosion. Of course, it's a large monster, you should expect that. Synapse, if it is within Synapse, to use the 3d6 for the leadership. The leadership is 8+, so yeah, you might need it. Depends on what it's doing. If it's on the home objective and you're trying to score points with it, or whatever you're trying to do, maybe you're using stratagems, you want it to be within Synapse and not battle shocked. And the unique ability is Resilient Organism. So once per battle, when an attack is allocated to this model, you can change the damage characteristic of the attack to 0. That's just 1 dice, 1 attack only. So 3 damage 4 weapons come in, only 1 of those dice will be put down to a 0 and the other 2 will still apply, which would be 8 damage rather than 12. So that could be really good against the big stuff, the big, I mean, going up against our own Rupture Cannon, 2d6, an average of 7, that now becomes 0 for that 1 attack. So it is nice, but it is only once per battle. You definitely want to pick when you're selecting that to be used in the right place. You don't want to be using it against a bolt gun, for example. Damage 1 becomes 0, who cares? Just take the damage. So that is the data card. Oh, we've got the damage table as well, actually. If you're 5 wounds or less, it's a -1 to hit. Isn't great, you'll be hitting on 4s, which can go up with a heavy keyword, of course, with 1 or 2, with 2 of the weapons, but really you don't want to be in that situation. So that's the data card. Let's get into my tactics. Now, tactically, with the weapons, it's very tempting to want to take the Rupture Cannon with that strength 18, but it is only 2 shots. It doesn't feel worth it to me, in my opinion. Maybe if you're pairing it with an Exocrine to get the rerolls to the hit rolls of a 1, alongside the heavy keyword, that will make it a little bit more usable in my opinion. But then the Exocrine has to also take the shots, and then the Tyrannofex has to take the shots, so maybe it's overkill. I don't know, it depends on what you're going up against. It's why I like to take the Acid Spray, because you can move with it, get into a different location, get into the no man's land, be a bit of a nuisance. Your opponent's got to shift you if you're on an objective, whereas if you're staying back in your home objective area, with a Rupture Cannon maybe it works, but the other weapons not so much. Now the Acid Spray, there's a lot of auto hitting shots there, which again they can work in Overwatch if you're using the Fire Overwatch stratagem for 1 CP. Now unfortunately the Overwatch stratagem is not a battle tactic stratagem, so if you've got your high tyrant nearby, that's not going to give it for free, because it only works on battle tactic stratagems, and I believe it's a strategic ploy stratagem, off the top of my head, so you're not going to get that freebie anyway. And when you're deploying, you need to make sure you've got a clear view, especially if you've got the Rupture Cannon. You need to make sure you're not only seeing a lot of the battlefield, but you're overlooking key objectives in the no man's land. There's no point being behind the ruin and it completely obscuring half of your view. You need to make sure this guy is looking at everything. Yes, it means it may take some incoming fire, but it's quite tanky. Toughness 12, how many wounds was it again? Double check, 16 wounds and a 2 armor save, so it can take it, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. That's just the way it is. That's just the way it is. Now, if you wanted a little bit more survivability, what I sometimes do is take the Psychophage. That is how you say it, the Psychophage. You get the 6+ Feel No Pain save. Sometimes helps. Any Feel No Pain saves are good, really. You can take the Venom Thropes for a cover save, although this edition cover saves are kind of easy to get. I don't think you need to get the Venom Thropes out for a monster, because you don't gain both the buffs from the Venom Thrope, you only gain the one because it's a monster. Now, as far as detachments go, I think the Tyrannofex has a very similar role in all the detachments, but today I wanted to go against the grain and talk about the Crusher Stampede detachment. I know everybody isn't really playing it because it's not that great, but like I said, it kind of works in all the detachments, so I thought let's give this Crusher Stampede a go in this video. Now, the detachment rule probably suits the Acid Spray more, because you're moving into the no man's land, so it's likely going to be taking a little bit more damage, maybe from melee, as well as shooting. You're going to be a bit more visible, a bit more in the action, so you're going to be taking damage, which will give you the Enraged Behemoth's ability from the detachment rule, which is a +1 to hit if you're damaged and a +1 to wound if you're under half strength. Wanting the +1 to hit, especially if you've got the heavy ones, because now that you can move with heavy and still get the +1, obviously it doesn't work so much with the Acid Spray, in fact, because the +1 to hit isn't going to apply to a torrent, but the +1 to wound when you've got strength 6 is pretty nice. It's pretty nice. You'll be wounding toughness 5 on 2s. Pretty good, pretty good. Now, you've got some stratagems that are available in this attachment. You've got the Corrosive Viscera, which is an auto-explode stratagem. So instead of rolling for a D6, instead of rolling for a 6 even, you auto-explode, and then it'll be D6 damage to everything within 6 inches. So you could time that quite well with the Acid Spray in particular, not so much with the Rupture Cannon, because you're probably surrounded by your own models, not where you want to be when you're doing auto-explosion. There's also Swarm Guided Salvos to ignore cover, because cover, as I mentioned earlier, is quite easy to get. So when you've got that, what was it, -2 AP, that was the Acid Spray, -2 AP, you don't want to be giving them cover. So you can take that away if you wanted to. I also like the Massive Impact stratagem, which inflicts an average of 3 mortal wounds on the charge. It's an average, I mean you get 6 goes at it, and it's a 4+ roll. It's a little bit like the old tank shot for vehicles, but this will apply to our monsters. Now, the Tyrannofex isn't really a melee monster, but if you do have the Acid Spray, you will be firing it within engagement range with no penalty, because it automatically hits. The Rupture Cannon and the Flesh Borer Hive, which we've not really spoke about too much in this video, both of them will have a -1 to hit penalty, but they can still fire into engagement range. There's no blast weapons, and they're monsters. Big guns never tire. But the Acid Spray are torrents, so you auto hitting, there's no penalty there. So let's get on to some comparisons. I'm going to go through this quite quick, because in the previous video we kind of mentioned a lot of the shooter units already, but you're basically bringing up all the shooty stuff again. The Zone Thropes, which for some reason I was calling the Neurothropes in the last video, Carnifexes with old One Eye with the Venom Cannons, potentially. Screamer Killers, Trigons, Malceptors, Exocrines, of course. These are all shooter units that do all sorts of different damages. Damage 1 right up to damage 3, I presume. Exocrine 3. Zoanthropes actually do a bit more, don't they? So it's quite hard to compare because we've got 3 different loadouts for the Tyranids Tyrannofex. So comparing every single loadout, I think, would be a little bit of a longer video. But the way to look at it is in terms of damage, of course. If you want to go damage, Rupture Cannon. That's the one, 2d6 damage. Does a lot, only with 2 shots. That's the big issue, really. The Acid Spray, a nice anti-infantry weapon, although the Codex does have quite a lot of anti-infantry. Is it needed? Potentially. Who knows? And the Flesh Borer Hives, I don't really think anyone's picking them, as I said already, purely because there's not as many hordes. Right, let's get on to the rate it or hate it section of this video. I'm a little bit on the fence, I'm not going to lie. I'm a little bit on the fence. I definitely prefer the Exocrine, but the Exocrine isn't doing this kind of damage. And the Exocrine isn't 190 points either. But if you were tiering them off, the Exocrine would be sort of A tier, maybe even S tier, like pushing towards S tier. The Tyrannofex isn't up there, but there's something about it that I like. I don't know what it is. I don't know whether it's the options. The Acid Spray and Rupture Cannon for me personally as options. If you're lacking a bit of big anti-tank weaponry in your list, you can go Rupture Cannon. And if you're not, you go with the Acid Spray. You go with the Acid Spray and you just run up the battlefield. Be a tank while flaming the crap out of anything that gets near it in the no man's land. Is that worth 190 points though? That's the thing. Now, it was 245 before. It definitely wasn't worth 245. That was well overpriced. But to be honest, a lot of the Tyranid models are overpriced, even still. Even with our new points, I think some of them are still overcosted. 190. For now, you know what? For now, I'm going to just give it the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to give it a thumbs up. I'm going to say I rate it. But it is sort of on the borderline for me. I think it could go down a slightly bit more. Just a slight. It doesn't have to go down too much more. Just a little bit to make it worthwhile. Again, the Rupture Cannon has flaws. The Acid Spray has flaws. The Flesh Borer Hive, I don't see it. There are flaws to the weapons, but a good addition to the Codex. So guys, remember to subscribe on your exits. Thank you all for watching this Tyranids video, and I'll see you in the next one.